All right, all right, all right, all right. I sound like Kevin Hart now. What's happening, everybody? It is Monday, a very rainy Monday here in Washington, D.C. We needed this rain. I mean, it was dry. It's been hot. Grass is brown and gold and all those things. But ooh, that was loud. Let me turn that off right now so that won't happen again. That was my notification letting me know that we're live on YouTube. We're live on all of the social media platforms. We're going to give people a time to join us. What's happening, everyone? Prime Rose, good to see you. Um, if you are joining us, please feel free to join the discussion. We're going to have a lively discussion today on underneath the topic. Here we go again, saving the union. I should say saving their union. I always say that. I say that very intentionally. Um, and it's all related to what just happened. What Joe Biden did, and you got Vice President Kamala Harris now. That's the accepted the call to run for president. Historic times here, very historic times. We want to talk a little bit about all of that, and I'm gonna hopefully give you an alternative perspective that you won't hear on mainstream media. You certainly won't hear the Congressional Black Caucus or any of them, talking about these points. But it's very important that we discuss it. So I'm gonna wait about another minute so we can get people on board. Welcome, happy Monday to everybody. This is Uncle Devin with Evolving with Uncle D. Evolving with Uncle D. And that's what we're about, is about evolving. And in order to evolve, we have to take some risk, and we have to be willing to unlearn what we've already know or think we know. We have to be willing to ask questions, seek truth. And that's what we try to do here, and that's what I'm about here. So we want to go ahead and get started. Again, today I want to talk to you just for a short minute about a lot of the activities that's been going on. Man, President Joe Biden drops out of the presidential race. I think it's the latest that someone has dropped out the race in U.S. politics history. I mean, we're in late July, and he's dropped out, and he's endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to run. I posted on my Facebook page that a fictitious quote from the Democratic Party that says, "We see your assassination attempt, and we raise you Vice President Kamala Harris." Oh my God. I'm a political science major. So first of all, I'm loving, I can get into all this all day long, but if that wasn't a heck of a checkmate, I don't know what was, because they were rolling. The Republicans were on a roll there. It was like everything was going. I mean, he was a hero. Let's fight. And then you had the Supreme Court cases, and they were on a roll. And then they didn't see this haymaker coming out the side. And so I love it from that standpoint. And I want to talk a little bit about again, the title of this discussion today is, it's a very appropriate one. Here we go again. Saving their union by Uncle Devin. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do I even mean by that? If you've been following me over the last several months, I've been talking a lot about activities in history going back to the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s, but more so around the Civil War in the 1860s. And I talked very specifically about how the primary economy for this country was the chattel slavery and the enslavement of Africans in the chattel slavery movement. That was the primary economy for this country. I also talked about how in the midst of this battle, while people didn't value Africans as humans, the laws even said some that we were 3/5 of a person, and that there was no laws that a white person was bound to respect. They needed us. And so all sides needed us. I mean, remember, the United States had just won its liberation from Britain. They say that they are about the rule of law. Well, the law was Britain, and the United States went to war, and they fought for their freedom. So this whole thing that, the United States is, that there's no place in American politics for violence. Are you kidding me? And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air. Y'all even sing about it. Put it in your daggone songs. So going back to the 1800s, Britain was recruiting blacks to join their fight against the United States. The South was trying to recruit blacks, but that was a harder sell because they were they were just like the heart of that slavery system. And then the Union, and you heard me say it before, even Abraham Lincoln said that if he could save the Union without freeing the slaves, he would have done it. So we came en masse as a people, consciously or unconsciously, decided that it was best in our best interest to fight on behalf of the Union in mass numbers. In addition to that, you had over 250 slave revolts. And I'm talking, they weren't just people walking away. They were killing their slave masters and their children and their babies and their mamas. And they were burning down the homes and all those types of things. 250 of them. As a result of all that, there was a compromise that in order to continue in this fight, there were certain concessions that America had to give to the enslaved Africans. One was laws. We had the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which they call the Reconstruction Amendments. You had the fact that they provided public health care, which hadn't existed. It exists in this country because of African people of African descent. Okay. So you had all these different concessions that they had to give. Now, the movement was strong then, and as things died down, we realized that many times those were primarily suggestions or ideas in theory, but not in practice, because once they even created these laws, you then had the black codes, Jim Crowism, all those types of things. And it goes to show that if you are fighting a movement, we have to relentlessly and passionately teach all of our people that this is a constant battle, which brings us to today. I believe that the Act Blue has reported that since Biden has declined has dropped out the race, that the Democratic Party has raised $50 million. I believe that's a record. On its own, I saw something where black women organized and they raised in one day 1.7 million or some number similar to that. We see the numbers that are just going crazy. And we know that a large part of that is that people understand and see the plan of the Republican Party and their connection with Project 2025. If you're not familiar with 2025, you really, really should be. You need to Google it and really understand what they're talking about. But this is a project by the Heritage Foundation that is really looking to take away all of your liberties and to create this theocracy, this ultra conservative Christian movement. And so a lot of people are supporting the Democratic Party because it's anti-Project 2025. I get that. And this is, again, it's not necessarily something new, but this is probably the most organized that they've ever been. I mean, you've had other movements before that came up that the Republican parties have done before, but this one has probably been the most organized that they've ever been. So all this money has been coming in, and I'm just going to ask the question, what are we going to get for those people in our community who are going to vote for the presidency of Kamala Harris? What are you going to get in return? I've always said this, and I want to thank the organizations that I work with, the Black Power. I'm sorry, the Black Alliance for Peace, and another organization in DC that I follow very much and support, the Pan African Community Action, for helping to continue to raise this issue. People are talking about voting, but I'm going to say this, and I said it a couple of weeks ago. If you vote, but you don't belong to an organization fighting to make sure that whoever's in office is carrying out the things that you believe that are true, then you're doing more damage than good. It's called representative democracy versus participatory democracy. Representative democracy simply means that you are putting someone in the office and then you let them do whatever they want. You're not holding them accountable. You're not lobbying. You're not doing any advocacy work. You're just going to continue to participate in folly. And while they do what they have to do, what would they do? Whatever they want to do. Whereas if you are participating in this process, I've always said this, it doesn't matter who you put in office. If the people are organized and are putting regular pressure on your elected officials from day one, then they can truly, I guess, well, and I'm sorry, I was looking at someone's comment and I got thrown off. I shouldn't have done that. I was looking at a good show. What's up, my man Michael Friend? Thanks for joining me on this, man. I'd love to get your opinion on this, man. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, that whole shift that happened yesterday was incredible. A nice little right hook that they threw back at him. But the question is, people say that it's our obligation, that our people fought for the right to vote, and they're correct. And some people say that because of that, we have an obligation to vote. There's a debate with that, but that's okay. I'll even accept that just for this argument. But we didn't get the right to vote because of the vote. It wasn't the vote that gave us the vote. It was our people organizing, which means that voting presupposes organization. If you are voting and you don't belong to a group or an organization that is making sure, again, as I mentioned, that the things that you believe that are most important are being addressed, then you're doing more damage than good. And I say that a couple of things that we're going to have to deal with. I put it in the chat, and I think it was in YouTube chat. I put an article that I found that was written by the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. The title of the article, which was on April 25th, 2024, says that most Black Americans want a more active U.S. role in ending the war in Gaza and protecting Palestinian lives. We all know the horrible, terrible track record of Biden as it related to our brothers and sisters in Palestine. The question is, with your vote, what are we going to get for it? Part of one of the things that we need to advocate for is, and we need to pay more attention to, is those things on an international level. You see, for most of the time that we've been here, we primarily have been discouraged from making the connection between civil rights and human rights. Civil rights is just that, those things that happen within the borders of the United States. But we never want to make that connection. They don't want us to make that connection between civil rights and human rights. The great W.E.B. Du Bois, I have this book that's called The World in Africa. The World in Africa. And it's a chapter in this book that he was speaking about American Negroes and Africa's rise to freedom. Now, you got to understand, people like Du Bois and Paul Robeson, all of them were ostracized because they started to make this leap between what was going on here and what was going on around the world. And I maintain, as I'm gonna mention something about Dr. King, that this is what we have to do. We have to come together to understand what are those issues, how we will ensure that our votes are not taken for granted. So Dr. Du Bois said, as he was speaking about the struggles and the contributions that enslaved Africans have made in this country for the Civil War and the Reconstruction era, he said that now equality began to be offered, but in return for equality, Negroes must join American business in its domination of African cheap labor and free resources. Now, this was W.B. Du Bois, I believe this was in the 1950s. No, this was 1961. So he said that in order to get freedom here, we had to give up or turn a blind eye or support American business in its domination of African cheap labor. What are we going to hold them to? I posted on my personal Facebook page yesterday, I think, or this weekend, an article that showed all of the gold that France owns, and most of that gold came from the French African countries, or the African countries that they colonized. And I liked some of the comments that people had. I mean, it was a lot of great comments that people posted on there. And I'm gonna see if I can find it real quick. But what's been happening in Africa right now is that these French-speaking countries have kicked out France and have told the United States that they have to leave with their military. Okay. Kamala Harris, if she assumes the position of president, now has to deal with all of this. And we have to make sure that we hold whomever, whatever parties in power, we would have to hold them accountable to that. I mentioned the whole thing about the international piece because even Dr. King, in some of his later speeches, talked about how people criticized him for speaking out and making the connection between civil rights and human rights. He says, can a nonviolent direct action movement find application on the international level to confront economic and political problems? I believe it can. It is clear to me that the next stage of the movement is to become international. This was Dr. King. This is what got him killed. National movements within the developed countries, forces that focus on London or Paris or Washington or Ottawa, must help to make it politically feasible for their governments to undertake the kind of massive aid that the developing countries need if they are to break the chains of poverty. We in the West must bear in mind that the poor countries are poor primarily because we have exploited them through political and economic colonialism. That was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that was a speech. I've taken this from a book that was written. It's called A Testament of Hope, edited by James M. Washington. It's the essential writings and speeches of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. You can take a look at that. And this was on what I just read was from page 652. And it's a speech that's called The Triumph of Conscience. So as we wade through all of this, we have an opportunity right now to do what didn't happen when Obama came into office. When Obama came into office, everybody started partying. Nobody organized anything around Obama. And guess what? As a community, we didn't get halfway of nothing underneath his tenure. I mean, I'll ask anybody to share with me the conditions of people of African descent in America actually got worse. I'm not saying it's directly because of him, but it certainly wasn't something that was done by his policies. Just imagine if Kamala Harris is elected on the first day or second day. Let's say the second day, because inauguration is the first day. On the second day, all the AKAs and all the Greek letter organizations and all the black churches go right down to the White House or Congress and first say, hands off, and say, this is what we demand. We demand the end of exploitation of people around the world. We support the people of Kenya, who, if you recently saw, the uprisings that took place in Kenya, when the U.S. supported and backed president of Kenya tried to implement an austerity program or a tax program, the people uprose. I mean, it was an uprising. Hundreds of people have been killed, but they took to the streets and they forced him to back off of that policy that would have only benefited the West and not benefited the people. That's what has to happen here. And this is what they don't want us to understand or want us to know. And so I maintain that if you feel good about what's going on with the election and that Vice President Kamala Harris is coming into office, it's time now to put pressure on her and the Democratic Party, because there are billionaires that have already lined up that are trying to control what's going to happen underneath that, underneath, if she's actually hired for those positions or if she's elected for that position. And we have a say and we have to organize ourselves. So voting without being in an organization, you're doing more harm than good. Just imagine you are part of an organization. I don't care if it's one of the old civil rights organizations. I would love to see you in the more progressive ones, some of the more revolutionary ones, some of those organizations which this country has fought against. I'm going to do a post real soon about the FBI's counterintelligence program. If you don't know what that is, everyone should look that up. The FBI's counterintelligence program underneath J. Edgar Hoover, where they intentionally put together a program to spy, to sabotage, to undermine what they said black liberation organizations in the United States and beyond, to prevent the rise of a black Madonna against what it was it a black Madonna? I got to figure out the exact terms, but this is government documents that they were saying. So use this opportunity. If you're feeling fired up, you've got to organize. Join an organization. Now, I'm a part of the Black Alliance for Peace. Ours is way on the left. It's a revolutionary organization. You can look it up online. There's other organizations that are out there, but you have to make sure that this country doesn't continue in the direction that it's always gone, and whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans. I will end with this. It's the headlines over the last couple of days emphasized 2 black women, but we haven't heard much about the second one. We know, of course, about Vice President Kamala Harris accepting the challenge to become the president of the United States, but also I'm sure that people heard about the passing of Texas Congresswoman Representative Barbara Lee. I believe that's, if I'm reading that right, is that? And I believe she passed away, I think they said of cancer. Recently, my wife and I saw the movie about Shirley Chisholm, and Barbara Lee played a very, got her start underneath Shirley Chisholm in her run for presidency. So it's a ironic connection that everything happened the way that it has. Let's see, where is it at? I don't see Barbara Lee. I just want to make sure I got the right information. So she was 74 years old. I'm sorry, I'm mixing them up. forget. Sheila Jackson Lee is the one that passed away. I apologize. Sheila Jackson Lee died at the age of 74. And I want to just give her a shout out, um, and it just, the role that she's played in Texas and fighting some of the things that she had to fight, is there, and I just want to lift her up. So I apologize. I want to make sure I'm getting the facts right. I was thinking Barbara Lee, and then I was thinking of Sheila Jackson Lee, and that's what made me mix the two together. So I would just simply say that um, it's important that if you feel that if you plan on voting, it is imperative. It's your responsibility to join an organization, because it was an organization that gave you the right to vote. If you're going to use that logic on us to say that we have a responsibility to vote because of our ancestors, well, our ancestors organized to get you the right to vote. So therefore, you have an obligation to join an organization. If you don't, you are part of the problem. I'm making it that simple. Join an organization, work with an organization, help to finance an organization that represents the principles that you believe. I believe in a system that does not believe in exploitation. The United States, along with its European allies, represent the capitalist system of exploitation around the world. So whether you have someone that looks like us as president or not, if they don't have the pressure put on them to do the right thing, it doesn't even matter. We know that most Black Americans, as I mentioned, want a more active role in ending the situation in Gaza. And in fact, it says that while 2 in 5 Black respondents reported not feeling connected to the plight of either Israelis or Palestinians, the number of Black Americans reporting feeling connected to Palestinians grew a great deal, 45%, up from 32%. So we can go into the whole thing, and people fear of Trump and Project 2025. That's cool. That's one thing. So I get that. But if you don't also couple that with very direct action programs that can help change the conditions that we see that's going on around the country, then we're really right back in the same place. I've learned not to get caught up in the hype and in the emotion. That's what they want you to get, real caught up in the emotion. We got to be very strategic, and you got to say, this is a long haul. I'm going to belong to this organization. I'm going to fight to make sure that we get what we need collectively as a people. And so let me come back through here, see what comments we have. Yeah, it was Sheila Jackson Lee. Thank you so much. I almost had the right one. Hopefully, somebody said hopefully it's Michelle Obama. That would be, who do you think would be make a good vice president? That would be quite interesting. I said a long time ago that the shining star for the Democrats moving forward is Maryland Governor Moore. He's been on a trajectory that, remind me of so many other situations that it's just been incredible. I cannot see the TikTok comments. I want to comment on them, but the way I have it situated, I'm afraid that I might cut something off if I do so. So if you're able to put some of the chats in there, I'd appreciate it. I saw a couple in there, and then I got distracted, and I don't want to do that, and I'm changing lights and all this other stuff. Okay, it's responsible for the uptick of knowledge. TikTok is responsible for the uptick of knowledge. Okay. All right. Well, I know they're trying to ban TikTok. That's for sure. I don't know. I noticed, we've noticed that, we were growing tremendously on our numbers on some of the other platforms, IG and all. Then all of a sudden we noticed that they just stopped. Now, I know IG may have done some new algorithm or something like that, but we still live in a system that tries to control the media, and that's part of it. I think she should bring in Nancy Pelosi. They won't play with her. She's down to business. Okay. All right. Emmanuel Kinley, thank you so much. Oh, yeah. What do I think about the felon and the DA, Trump and Kamala? Right? I'm sorry. I don't know about you, but I would love to see that debate. Oh my God, that would be. I mean, it would be. It really wouldn't even be fair. It really wouldn't be. I mean, just from an articulate point of standpoint. I mean, it would. I don't think that Trump and them are going to even go to a debate. I think he already said that he's not going to debate. We'll see, but I don't see how he can. Is the only thing that he can do is disrupt and try to, I mean, it's just it would be night and day. And with this change, they completely flipped the whole issue of age. So now it's the Republicans that have to deal with the issue of a 78-year-old who certainly, if he isn't, well, I'm gonna be careful. I wasn't gonna say something. I was gonna say something about his mental health. There's some serious concerns that I know I have about that mental, his mental stability. It'll definitely show. So, okay, thank you. Says I need a bigger platform. She is sharing your stream. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm um learning to get my voice. How about that? I've always had a voice, but I've never really done it this much until the last year or so on social media. But thank you so much. Is it called Lindewe? Lindewe, I believe it is. Thank you so much. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this works. And so what do you think? Let me know what are your thoughts? What do you think is going to happen? How do you feel about President Biden stepping down? And do you think that we should, I mean, get something for blacks, Africans coming in and saving the union again? What are your thoughts? And I just saw okay, Manuel, that's your message again. Okay. I'm trying to see if I can scroll up without doing too much damage here. Yeah, I would love to know what your thoughts are. Do you think we should we should do this? It's going to be very interesting. And I'll just say, don't take your eyes off of what's going on internationally. I mean, the fact that you had 3 African countries that kicked out France and the United States. I mean, and for those who haven't seen it, and hopefully you have, I did a song called "Move the Money." This song, it talks about the fact that there are over 750 U.S. military bases in over 80 countries. That's a lot of places. The United States is the #1 supplier of guns that ends up on our streets, killing our daughters and our sons. And so I want you to take a look at that video, because in that video, I'm not just talking about the Republicans. This was the Republicans and the Democrats. You talking about over $800 billion annually of our tax dollars that are going into the military industrial intelligence police complex when we can't afford universal health care, and they're talking about doing away with education, and you see they can't pass anything for financial aid, or you see the number of people that are homeless. The United States, thanks to both parties, is more and more becoming a fascist state. It doesn't matter who's running it. And we have an opportunity to be able to change that. My buddy Mike Friend says it's going to be Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. I think so. I think I've been hearing a lot about Shapiro's name popping up. Got to give a shout out to Soul in Motion players out of Bethesda. I'm an alum of the one and only African drum and dance group. My man Michael Friend, known him, and he truly is a friend. And so I got to give him a shout out. But I think it might be Josh Shapiro. Anybody else? Who do you think that might be? Someone also mentioned Michelle Obama. I don't think Michelle's going to want to jump into that. And I already have my concerns that the white folks in the middle still have their apprehension about voting for blacks. I don't know. That's just my thing. We'll see. I know Obama got elected. I get that. But for some reason, the disdain toward our black women is just incredible. And Yeah, okay, like Mike said, don't get me started on social media and black initiatives. You witnessed the negative impact on June 24th, 21st. Oh, okay, so Solar Motion Plays, yeah, 40th anniversary. That's right. Um, so we someone says they think it maybe JD Vance just spoke and he's amazing. Okay, I'm not sure. I haven't heard that, so I'm not. That's what someone says. So JD Vance, he's amazing, huh? Okay. So we can talk about contradictions all day long. I mean, first, Trump is the enemy. Now he's a friend. These folks, something that Kwame Ture always says that capitalism doesn't lie some of the times, it lies all the time. And if they do tell the truth, it's the result of a double lie. Well, that's what he represents, a double lie. Um, let's see what else we got here. Emmanuel Kinley says the Republican Party held back a lot of work that could have been done. Okay, not sure what you mean, but I appreciate you sharing it. Um, um, Malati on Instagram says if she or the vice president has a fair chance without cheating, she can possibly win. You can explain that. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Um, I mean, I don't know. What is cheating? Is cheating stealing people's land? Is cheating, going into other people's countries and stealing their resources? Um, and say the Republicans are cheating. To me, America is a lie. So, so we can start there. But I see some other comments about America is cheating. And Mike said, yeah, just watch Vance's speech, and it's like he has, I haven't seen the speech yet, but I can only imagine, he's supposed to be some of the upcoming person that's doing some things, but and the thing is, I think the timing of all this, I mean, was brilliant, even though I don't think it was done intentionally, but the fact that it happened after Trump has already named Vance as his vice president, now they stuck, they ain't got nowhere to go. And that whole piece, they're now trying to figure out how they're going to come back, against her. Um, let's see what this meant is that there were initiatives and laws presented, but the Republicans shut it down at every turn. Okay, thank you, Emmanuel, for clarifying that. Um, yeah, that's true. I would say that there was some on both sides that both could have taken advantage of. I mean, at one point, Obama was president and he had a majority in Congress, and there still was a lot that was done during that time period. So I think there was a lot to be said for that. But either way, my whole premise as I wrap up now is that if you are going to vote, if you're going to be honoring those who fought for the right to vote, you need to belong to an organization that is regularly holding politicians accountable for the things that they say that they were going to do. And if not, you shut this country down. You do what is being done in Kenya right now. You do what's been done in this country for years. You use your voice. You shut things down until we get what is needed and what is necessary to end poverty and homelessness and lack of health care and all these different things. We are sending billions upon billions of dollars in other countries who have universal health care, but we don't. In this country, we don't. So those are some of the things. And absolutely, Mike, that's my whole point. One person can't do everything, but we all can do something. And that's my whole point. That's one of the reasons why I've been very critical of the black church. Many of us go to church and we expect the pastor to marry us, to bury us, to preach to us, to teach to us, to do all these different things. And it's almost like we take our brain and we just leave it at the door, and whatever the pastor say goes. Whereas there is no church if it wasn't for the masses of the people that is there. You can go back and look at some of my other videos where I talked about that. We have to get out of this capitalistic mentality of one person will save the world. It never has been that way, and it never will be that way. It's up to us as a masses of the people. So I'm going to see if there's any more comments, but let's see, two more here. Make sure that you like our post. If you first of all follow us on YouTube, the YouTube page has been really growing. This is where we get into a deeper discussion. Go to Evolving with Uncle D, Evolving with Uncle D, and hit the like button. Follow us. We posting stuff on a regular basis there. Also, private chat. Okay, okay, I'll come back to that. Also on our social media pages. Yeah, I am a children's music artist, but this is part of my evolution because if we don't have these discussions and our children don't hear these discussions, then we're doing them a disservice. I do believe in making allowing children to be children. I certainly do. I'm not trying to make them into adults before they need to be. There's an important role of play, and too often in our community we deny our children that opportunity because we want them to be grown up so much. That's why you see videos with us always showing them doing grown up dances that they shouldn't be doing and singing grown up songs that they should not be singing. That's why we do what we do at the Uncle Devin show and our partner radio station, wenationradio.com, with two E's, We Nation Radio. Watoto Entertainment and Education. You can download it right now on your phone. Just go to We Nation Radio with two E's, download it. The best in R&B, hip hop, funk, jazz, reggae, go-go, calypso, African world rhythm, and more, all specifically for children 0 to 12, and that's culturally relevant. So, and Emmanuel, I'm with you 100%. I have not voted for a Democrat or a Republican since I came out of college. I mean, since college days in 1988. I am not a Democrat. I am not a Republican. I have my concerns with both of them. I've expressed my concerns with both of them. And so I know you say that you would love to see a non-Democrat or Republican win. I mean, the third parties in this country really don't get any type of love. And I'm not even talking about the Kennedy boy. I think he a little off myself. But I mean, you have so many other candidates. I've voted for the Green Party before. And so I've done that type of of activism before. So so keep the comments coming, even if we turn off. I think you'll still be able to leave us some information. But listen, this is some fun times and some real interesting time, but it's very important times. And as we look at the Project 2025 and what they're trying to do, you don't get confused into assuming that the platform of the Democratic Party isn't also part of a process to control money for corporate America. We can change that. We've done it before. We can continue to organize ourselves to make sure that everyday people, they say the middle class people, I'm talking about poor and oppressed people around the world. The immigration issue is a direct result of U.S. policies by both the Democrats and the Republicans that go into other countries and destabilize them to the extent that they're now looking to come here because they have no stability in their own country. That's a result of the policies here. And I'm going to be doing a post very shortly to talk about a little bit about the violence of the United States around the world in those over 750 military bases around the world. Go check out my video, Move the Money, on the Evolving with Uncle D. You'll see the video there. And we will catch up with you next week for another lively discussion. So thank you all for taking the time. I don't take it lightly. I don't you could be doing anything else, but you decided to stay here and have this discussion with me. But whatever you do, as Chuck Brown said, whatever you do, big or small, do it well or don't do it at all. And I'll see you soon. And remember that life is a drum, so beat it.